The root of tithe may be a hilarious pun, the religious institution being recipient of 10% of your pap's production. Instead of you suckling on the tit of the church's production, it suckles on yours. Jacob Bryant wrote, Annales. ANC Myth. pp 417-18. When towers were situated upon eminences fashioned very round, they were by the Ammonians called tith, which answers to tithi, wet nurse, and tithos, breast, in Greek.
Τύθη, τύθος, τύθιον, μαστός.
Hesychius. They were so denominated from their resemblance to a woman's breast, and were particularly sacred to Horus and Osiris, the deities of light, who by the Grecians were represented under the title of Apollo. Hence the summit of Parnassus was named Titharia from Tithor, and hard by was a city, mentioned by Pausanias, L10, page 878, of the same name, which was alike sacred to Horus and Apollo.
The same author takes notice of a hill near Epidaurus, called Tithion Oros Apollonos. BREASTSHAPD Mount of Apollo. Όρος όμικρον με τόνο δι Τίτθιον ονομαζούσιν εφ, ήμον, τι καυτα δε καλύτο μυρτίον.
A mountain that they called Tithion after us, and that's why it was called of myrtles. Pausanias.
L10, p. 878.
There was a summit of the like nature at Samos, which is bigwa Kalymaka style the breast of Porthinia, διαβρόχον είδα τιμάς των Παρθένης. Καλάιμακ.
Him in Delon. v. 48. Mounds of this nature are often by Pausanias and Strabo, termed from their resemblance, like a breast, or pap-like as it is translated in two places. This reminds me of the nature of the tumuli found in Italy and Great Britain. Revisit this article for further explanation. Bryant continued, ib page 418. Tithonus, whose longevity is so much celebrated, was nothing more than one of these structures, a pharos, lighthouse, sacred to the sun, as the name plainly shows. Tithon is, the mount of the sun. The Sicilian promontory in Italy seems to have been named Titan, for the bay below is by Lycophron styled Titonian.
Titonion Techevma.
Titonian the river. v. 1275. Rivers and seas were often denominated from places, near which they flowed. Would you like to guess at where that promontory is located? If you guessed Etruria, in Italy, home of the Etruscans, you'd be correct. Woo buddy. Shout out to Kino Casino.
This is some real whoa buddy shit right now.
Would you like to guess what unique structures are found there? If you guessed megalithic polygonal masonry, invented by the Etruscans, mythologized by the ignorant Greeks as Cyclopean, then you'd also be correct. And yet, even today, as a result of this ignorance, we have modern alternative researchers and historians still refusing to acknowledge this basic fact, despite it being in the historical and archaeological records, that the ancient Italians invented masonry, which is why their techniques are found even in the Great Pyramid. The question is, why? Why does no one of prominence in modern academia acknowledge that the Etruscans are credited with inventing masonry, and that the diffusion of their maritime empire is found in the form of this masonry? Revisit Fresh Batch number 167 for context regarding the specifics of the Great Pyramid. If it be the case that Tithonus is an archetype for a pharos, or lighthouse, then perhaps this idea of Aurora taking leave of Tithonus is the light going out at the lighthouse, or daybreak making the lighthouse's fire irrelevant. Bryant continued, ib page 418. As he supplied the place of that luminary, the sun, he is said to have been beloved by Aurora, and through her favor to have lived many ages. This indeed is the reverse of that, which is fabled of the Cyclopes, whose history equally relates to edifices. They are said to have raised the jealousy of Apollo, and to have been slain by his arrows, yet it will be found at the bottom of the same purport. The Cyclopean turrets upon the Sicilian shore fronted due east, and their lights must necessarily have been extinguished by the rays of the rising sun. This, I imagine, is the meaning of Apollo's slaying the Cyclopes with his arrows. Tessis, the ancient goddess of the sea, was nothing else but an old tower upon a mount, of the same shape, and erected for the same purposes, as those above. On this account it was called Tithys, breast of fire. Thytis seems to have been a transposition of the same name, and was probably a pharos, or fire tower near the sea. Per usual, The alleged depictions of these archetypes are not easily found supported by inscriptions that confirm the identities, so there is a degree of guesswork that people refuse to admit, which makes it difficult to display accurate images, so I'll leave it to you to search on your own. For those interested in learning about this ancient system of language, symbolism, and subsequently priestcraft and cultural diffusion, invest in the Spirit World series, and then the Real Universal Empire. Become a member to access the rest of this article.